What's up everybody and welcome back to another Dota 2 commentary. This is B-Ball and bringing you Game 3 between Rising Stars and Mith-Trust in the Losers Bracket Finals of Group B from the International East Qualifiers, and whoever wins this match does move on to the brackets where they each get 2 more shots in order to try to get themselves to Seattle. And keep in mind the top 2 do have a guaranteed slot in Seattle. The first place will get a guaranteed slot in the International 3. The second place will have to play the second place of the Western Qualifiers, which is DD, in order to try to get a slot in the International 3 to compete for over $2 million and rising at this point. But this is going to be a matchup between Rising Stars and Mith-Trust. Mith-Trust from Thailand, Rising Stars from China. I have never seen Rising Stars actually play, but from what I've heard, they're a ridiculously strong team, as actually I never had the game unpaused. A bit unfortunate, but still, I can go over some of what I've heard and seen from the other 2 games. This is probably one of the last Eastern qualifier matches that I'll cast, unless there's some really good Eastern qualifier matches that take place from November 28th to the 30th, and then but for now, I'll probably switch back to the Western scene to take a look at some interesting raid called Dota 2 League matches. But yeah, I think in game 1, Mith-Trust picked up a Clanks as well as a Dragon Knight, so Mith-Trust seemed to really favor the Dragon Knight quite a bit, and Rising Stars responded with a Silencer, and they got completely demolished from what I can recall from the replay. So we'll see if Mith-Trust can get similar picks to that, or if Rising Stars sort of figured out Mith-Trust's strong points. Unfortunately, I did not look at the replay for Game 2, so I don't really know what Rising Stars did to come back, and I'm not acquainted with Rising Stars' playstyle, so I'm going to be a bit unfamiliar with how this team plays, but I know and I have a pretty good grasp on how Mith-Trust plays, so we're going to see how this goes, as Rising Stars already has 1 player disconnected, so I'm sure there's going to be a pause right after everybody picks and bans, and then we'll get into the game. But Rising Stars, knowing that they got demolished in Game 1 by the Dragon Knight, gonna ban out with their first ban. Interesting, Mith-Trust, well, not really interesting, because Mith-Trust actually have the second ban, so they banned the Barrett, trying to make sure that Rising Stars do not get it. Up for a moment, I did think that Mith-Trust had the first pick, but Barrett first ban makes a lot of sense. They really want to prevent Rising Stars from getting that. But yeah, Rising Stars have shown that they are willing to choose Silencer if they really feel like it. Silencer is a pretty solid support hero, and Rising Star is going to ban out the Shadow Demon as well, so they want to eliminate some of the aggression that Mith-Trust can potentially throw their way, as Mith-Trust going to ban out the Leicester, and Rising Star is going to immediately reply with a Lone Druid choice. Leicester, of course, makes a lot of sense. He has been ridiculously powerful and ridiculously successful recently, and you never really want to deal with him in the early to mid stages of the game. Lone Druid, of course, is a similar beast, but at the very least, he's a bit more easy to gank, because he can be ganked. He's quite tanky, but if you shut him down, he doesn't really get going as quickly as the Leicester, but if he gets going, he can potentially just completely decimate your team. So Lone Druid, a very smart choice by Rising Stars with their opening pick, as it gives them a solid tank, it gives them a solid way to break the base, and it gives them a really annoying hero to break down. So Mith-Trust, we're gonna have to see how they respond to it, as I think in this situation you'd probably pick up the Nyx, but I don't know. I guess the Asian scenes don't really place as high priority on Nyx as the Western teams, because I have not seen too much Nyx action with the opening choices by the Asian teams. But Mith-Trust is going to take their time, as they're trying to think about what they want to get with their opening 2 choices. Some heroes that are very powerful in the Asian scene is Leshrac. He is one of the favored supports. Templar Assassin, I think, is quite a strong mid for the most part. Puck is also very highly regarded, but Mith-Trust are probably going to pick up 1 support for their child and then maybe get one of their other heroes, so they can at least have a support backbone in order to potentially get an early game aggressive strat against Lone Druid, or just get a strong child. But they're going to first pick up the Juggernaut. Interesting choice. Juggernaut, of course, has been receiving a lot of favor recently because of his Healing Ward, giving his team so much extra pushing, and his Blade Fury and his Omni Slash means he doesn't really need that many items, but with an opening choice, this is a bit risky by Mith-Trust, because Juggernaut as a hero, it does fall in the late stages of the game, because the way people build him is that they go for tankability and utility items rather than going for DPS. And, I mean, the thing about Omni Slash is that it'll distribute evenly amongst the Bear and the Lone Druid, of course, assuming that they're the only 2 targets. And Lone Druid, since he has such a high base armor, when in the true form, he will be able to tank the Omni Slash, because keep in mind, Omni Slash does do physical damage, What's good about Juggernaut is that he doesn't really care about BKB so much. He has a built-in magic immunity, and this could potentially deny Rising Stars a Wisp pick if Rising Stars did want to go for a Wisp, because Juggernaut doesn't really care about Wisp so much. He can just spin on out of there and just say, haha, Wisp. Yes, that was actually the best I could come up with, as I'm casting this game a little bit late, but hopefully you'll find it enjoyable nonetheless. So Rising Stars, thinking long and hard about who they want to choose. Rubik by Mith-Trust. It doesn't really give away too much with the Juggernaut. You could potentially go in the aggressive Challenge and really challenge Rising Stars' Challenge, but Rubik doesn't really give away too much. He's not really particularly good in either an aggressive or a defensive setting. He can fit well in both aspects. I mean, he has a good setup, and if there was another carry that couldn't really do as much damage as the Juggernaut, then I'd be more apt to think that Rubik would be going into defensive Chon, but since Juggernaut is such an aggressive hero in the laning phase, he could potentially go in aggressive Chon, but Rising Star is going to pick up Visage as well as Queen of Pain, so Visage, or Visage, is going to be the choice for Rising Stars for their Chine, and we're going to have to see how they use it, because Chinese teams don't really care about Visage so much in the laning stage. He's, of course, ridiculously powerful, but I've seen Chinese like put Visage in defensive challenge or Visage in defensive challenge and just try to get him farmed up, and he usually does a solid job because he is naturally very tanky. The soul or the Gravekeeper's Cove gives him a lot of natural tank ability. The birds become such a huge presence on the map. It's also pretty good in terms of pushing. He does a lot of magical DPS, and he is overall a very strong mid to late game support that supports really don't have a good time transitioning to that role. So Visage or Visage is one of those few heroes who can make that transition. Queen of Pain just means that Rising Stars want to get themselves a strong mid. Many anticipating putting the Juggernaut mid or the Gyrocopter mid, but they want to get their strong mid. It doesn't really give away too much. They just getting a really strong laner, getting a bit of burst damage, and Lone Druid as a hero doesn't really do that much damage to heroes unless he gets an entangle. And Visage will probably be sticking in his lane, just sending his birds out, so Queen of Pain will probably be the initiation for a lot of the early game engagements for Rising Stars. So I'm not too disappointed by this pick, but again, if Queen of Pain doesn't get out to a good start, then Mith-Trust will just be able to tank up, no field by Rubik. Juggernaut will just be ridiculously tanky. Gyrocopter will of course rush that BKB most likely after the drums, so Queen of Pain's burst damage will decrease in effectiveness if she does not get out to a really strong start. Meanwhile, Gyrocopter Mith-Trust is going to give them some late game DPS as well as perhaps fortifying a Trilane. Gyrocopter could be played in a multitude of different ways. Could go solo mid, which we have seen in these qualifiers. Could potentially go in safe lane if Mith-Trust do decide to run an aggressive Trilane. So yeah, he's overall a very versatile hero. He hasn't had too much success in the Asian qualifiers from what I've seen, but I don't know. I guess teams are just really not farming enough with him, and for the most part he's been picked up by Mineski, who like to take a lot of team fights and they don't really like to farm with him. And Gyrocopter is definitely a hero who can take team fights early on, but against this Rising Stars ridiculously tanky lineup, I don't imagine Gyrocopter will be there to tank or will be there to deal that much early game damage on the back of his magical DPS. He needs to get the farm, and once he gets the farm he should be okay, but Gyrocopter of course will definitely need the BKB in this game, as well as an additional DPS item. Maybe I'll go for Shadow Blade in the beginning to try to get some split push to combat the Lone Druid's pushing power, and then I'll go with the BKB, but still, you always want to have another DPS item in your back pocket if you do decide to sort of fight with Gyrocopter in the mid to late stages of the game, and Gyrocopter can of course do that very well. But yeah, I don't think he'll be that effective in early game engagements because Rising Stars is so ridiculously tanky, and they can just do so much damage that Gyrocopter really can't fight in a heads-up engagement. Rising Star is going to be out the Sand King, so maybe they've watched some Mith-Trust replays. The Sand King being handled by R5. R5 has been absolutely phenomenal. It's made me rethink my stance on support Sand King being bad, but they're going to have to let check as well, recognizing that Mith-Trust still need another stun to seal up their try, and Meal Mith-Trust is going to ban out the Clock as well as the Chaos Knight. So if Rising Stars had a Wisp pick in their mind, then Chaos Knight is going to be removed. So I guess that was the reasoning behind Mith-Trust banning out the Chaos Knight rather than just banning out the Wisp. Maybe Mith-Trust want to pick up Wisp for themselves, I don't know, but I don't think Wisp will actually be chosen in this game regardless. I'm not too sure about the Chaos Knight ban, maybe that's a Rising Stars specialty pick, but again, that could just be to deny Rising Stars the Wisp without having to ban Wisp themselves. Rising Star is going to be at the puck, so they are anticipating Gyrocopter not going mid. Maybe they're anticipating Rubik, Juggernaut, Aggressive Challenge, Gyrocopter safe lane, and yeah, or Gyrocopter mid. So, yeah, I mean, Puck, of course, does ridiculously well against Co-op. I mean, once you get the dagger, Blink in Silence, and Queen of Pain usually has such little base HP pool at that point without a BKB that she will get bursted down. So Puck does make a lot of sense. I guess it's not really about the landings. That's why I was hesitating for a bit, because I was like, well, Gyrocopter could potentially go mid, but it's more just about the Puck countering Queen of Pain in the mid stage of the game where Queen of Pain really wants to get on a really fast start. Interesting enough, Mith-Trust is going to be out the Chaos Knight as well as the Wisp, so I'm not too sure about how I feel about that, because Rising Stars, I don't know how they'd utilize the Wisp without using Chaos Knight. They're going to push, they have a lot of burst damage. Maybe they could relocate the Lone Druid in, but I don't think that's a viable strategy, so I don't know how I feel about this final ban by Mith-Trust. I feel like it's a bit of a waste because Rising Stars did not have too many heroes that synergized with it, and Rising Stars is going to pick up the Nyx, which I feel like is a very, very strong choice here. The mana burn will just be immense. If you can blink in, get the Impale going, it'll be ridiculously powerful. And at a certain point in the game, Gyrocopter will be left on his own to farm up, and Vendetta will just help to open up ganks so easily, especially with the Queen of Pain always being probably a factor on the map if she does get off to a good start. So I really like this choice of supports by Rising Stars. They can potentially defend against Aggressive Challenge by Mith-Trust as well. They have an AoE stun, and they have yet to pick up their hard carries. So Rising Stars, I'm really, really comfortable with how they're laning it thus far. They have a pretty solid mid game. They seem to have a solid plan in mind as well. Yeah, Mith-Trust is going to pick up the TA. Interesting choice, as this is a very controversial matchup. Some people think Queen of Pain does beat TA mid, some people don't. The thing about it is it really depends on the TA player, as Queen of Pain just really needs a player game. But TA, once she manages to get a level advantage, will get that refraction going, be able to outlast it, out-deny the Queen of Pain, and just sort of take over the lane after that. And one of the things that you can do with TA is, of course, dodge every Shadow Strike that's coming on the back of your meld. So if TA manages to do that, there's really not too much Queen of Pain can do to harass the TA out of lane. I mean, sure, Queen of Pain does have better base damage without the refraction on, and has a pretty solid attack animation, but still, Queen of Pain will have to be careful because her HP pool is quite limited. But still, I mean, Bottle Crow sort of makes most mid-lane matchups null and void. But, I mean, if Tia can dodge all the Shadow Strikes, then she should be able to theoretically take the lane. But if Queen of Pain can get those Shadow Strikes going, then she should be able to dominate the lane rather easily. Rising Star is going to secure the late game with an Alchemist choice, so Alchemist will be the trialing hero most likely. It's a bit iffy if they're going to go aggressive or defensive. The only problem with going aggressive is even though you have a Visage and you have a lot of stuns, they have 2 melee heroes, so it might be a bit trickier to set up, but those 2 melee heroes do have decent range stuns to help set up the Visage ganks, or the Visage initiation soul assumptions. But I'd be more inclined to see Rising Stars put Alchemist in defensive, because Alchemist, of course, since he farms so much quicker than most carries, if you manage to get off to a hot start, then he can just become an absolute monster mid-game, and that's what Rising Stars are going to go for. They're going to go for a mid-game timing push most likely, and have Alchemist and Lone Druid be the frontline tanks, and once they're there, Mith-Trust really can't keep them back. But Mith-Trust is going to fortify their backline with the Darkseer, and I think this Darkseer choice, it's really good, but I also feel like Mith-Trust is kind of forced into this pick, because he always synergizes really with the Gyrocopter. He doesn't really synergize with anybody else. I think it's just more like, alright, we kind of need an off-lane hero that can do quite well up against a defensive Tron, so we'll get the Darkseer. He can still do enough in the mid-game to make him very relevant. He can help to delay the pushes, but other than that, I don't really see much synergy with anybody outside the Gyrocopter, but that's pretty much all you need, because Darkseer is a hero who can single-handedly win team fights, and since Alchemist builds so damn tanky, those illusions can tank up a lot of damage and can go on a rampage. As the pause is going to go through, so we'll introduce the players and teams as I look to fast forward through this pause. So on side of Rising Stars, we're going to have Super playing the Visage, last pick random by H3. Air is going to be playing the Queen of Pain, Zhao Tuji is playing the Alchemist, XVD is playing the Nyx Assassin, and Mofi is going to be playing the Lone Druid. On the side of Mith-Trust, we're going to have Darkseer being handled by TNK, R5 is going to be playing the Rubik, Ba is playing the Templar Assassin, SD is playing the Juggernaut, and Lakels is going to be taking care of that Gyrocopter. So yeah, I think for the most part these Trojans will be very defensive. I think Mith-Trust can't go aggressive even if they did have the intention of doing it earlier on, because the Rising Stars Trojan is ridiculously tanky and ridiculously difficult to engage into. And Rising Stars, they have a bit more potential going for an aggressive Trojan, but I think Alchemist is better in a defensive Trojan just so he can get his farm going and just so he can become a factor much earlier on, and you don't really have to rely on the kills as much, especially against a triple ranged, most likely tri-lane. But yeah, actually, now that I look at it, it's a bit weird how Mith-Trust will lane this. They might be forced to go aggressive because how else are they going to land the TA and the Darkseer or the Gyrocopter? They have a lot of cores and a lot of heroes that need farm. So they might do a Darkseer Trine, or they might do... Yeah, I guess Darkseer Trine is probably the only option. This is very, very curious, as Mith-Trust lanes are kind of messed up. I'm not too sure how they're going to actually lane this, because they have 4 heroes that need a lot of experience as well as farm. Maybe they can throw Juggernaut to the wolves and just say screw it and put... Darkseer will probably have to go in the jungle. I think, actually now I think about it, it's probably going to be Darkseer jungle, Juggernaut just go into the offlane, say fuck it, try to get whatever experience you can possibly get, and Gyrocopter Rick will play the safe lane, because that's what teams sometimes do with the Juggernaut. But it is interesting to see because TNK usually plays the offlane and SD is going to be playing the Juggernaut in this game. So it might actually be like a support Juggernaut or something ridiculous. But it's going to be very, very weird for Mith-Trust. They have heroes that need a lot of experience, and if they don't get the experience that they need in order to dominate this game, then Rising Star's immense power in the mid game could completely overwhelm them. So a lot of pressure, as always, will be on the Darkseer to delay the onslaught of the Rising Stars on lineup as long as possible. And I always feel like Darkseer is a very stressful hero because he has so much pressure, because you get so much farm, but you're expected to win so many team fights. But, I mean, he's such a fun hero. I love playing Darkseer. Even before he was ridiculously good, I always loved playing Darkseer. Gonna make mouse movement of a heart. This cone head. He's too awesome. It's okay, guys. I'll never cheat on bat with the Darkseer, though. But yeah, just gonna fast forward some more. I think this is probably at max 8 times speed at this point. Or are my hotkeys reset? Oh my god, I think I was slowing it down the whole time, so whoops. Well, I guess that didn't really matter too much in the end. But yeah, Lakel's picking up an interesting assortment of items as a fast Wraithband, so it looks like he's going to go for a fast Ring of Claw. Might indicate that he's going to push, but also, I mean, it's pretty standard on Gyrocopter. TNK looks like he's going to go head right into the jungle, as I think he did buy an extra courier. He did. So maybe he will go in the offlane just so he can get that ball curl going ASAP, but right now his item build is slightly limited, as I guess Gyrocopter jungle for the first couple levels, get the bottle, and then rotate to the offlane position. And yeah, I guess it is a support Juggernaut. Who would have thought? As Juggernaut is one of those heroes who, again, doesn't need that much farm or items if you play him in a certain role. I mean, if you play him as carry, you obviously want to have him as farmed as possible, but for the role that teams do like to play him in, he's not really incapable of being a support. I mean, he can't really harass, but he's magically immune, he does a lot of damage naturally, and he has a healing ward, and he does Omni Slash, so he's invulnerable for portions at a time. So yeah, interesting that Juggernaut will be the support in this game. I'm pretty excited to see how this will turn out, but I have a feeling it might turn out immensely wrong. He might just be super underleveled. So we're gonna have to see how they decide to play this Juggernaut. Will he just do a lot of pulls and stacks and try to clear the camps with his Blade Fury, or will he just roam a lot, get a fast boot speed? Right now he did help to get Kerr and wards, so his boot speed will be heavily delayed. And will he be able to get some farm in the later stages of the game, or will Mith-Trust just say screw it, Juggernaut, get whatever utility items he could possibly get? But yeah, Mith-Trust, I don't think they're really going to go aggressive with their supports. They're just going to try to get as much experience as possible because it's, again, so difficult to engage against Rising Star's early game lineup. They have so much maneuverability as well as tankability, and they do a lot of burst damage, so it's going to be very difficult for the supports of Mith-Trust to actually roam in, and that's why I think they're just going to ban that concept entirely. R5 with the pair of Sentry Wards, probably in anticipation of having this pull camp blocked, as Juggernaut will get that, but looks like the Lone Druid will be able to pull a Creep Wave, and we're going to have to see how Lakel's last hitting under the tower will work out, but Lakel's is such a strong carry player that I'm sure you'll have no problem doing that whatsoever. Ba against the Queen of Pain, for the most part, it looks like it's relatively even, but it hasn't even been a minute into the matchup. Just looking at the items, Queen of Pain gonna go for the fastball. Air got a null talisman as well as some sentry ward, so I guess was pulled a set of tangos. And if that's the case, Templar Assassin will have a bit more tricky of a time in terms of the very early levels, but she's going to get her bottle up a lot sooner. So Queen of Pain's just going to have to do a lot of focus on eliminating the possibility of Templar Assassin getting the bottle. You can see Air's positioning is just absolutely phenomenal, just constantly threatening the TA, knowing that TA does not have enough mana for refraction, and just going to bully her out. But Templar Assassin, she's close enough that even if she doesn't get any CS, she'll have the bottle in about 30 seconds anyway, and she does manage to get CS regardless. R5 managed to get a lift going and actually pulled the creep wave nicely, denying a lot of experience to the lone druid. So a really solid job by Mith-Trust thus far, but the bear looks like he's going to get some more experience relatively soon, or trying to pull one creep at the very least. But again, this jungle will be very, very starved. You're going to have Juggernaut pulling, you're going to have Darkseer jungling it up, you're going to have Rubik trying to get whatever farm he can get. Mith-Trust are going to be very experienced to start, but if they manage to get going, they will be able to handle the mid-game very, very well, and they might be able to hold off the immense mid-game prowess of Rising Stars in this game. But Rising Stars, they can take it late as well. They also have a triple core carry. They have Queen of Pain, who scales well if she manages to get some solid items like a Hex up. They have Nyx, who is a very well scaling support. Mana Burn scales ridiculously well, and the AoE Impale is quite powerful. Visage scales very, very well as well, because the nuke, you'll have more mana to spam it. The birds also are ridiculously powerful, as looks like there might be engagement on a bot in the middle lane, but he's just gonna go on the offensive and turn that right around, as interestingly enough, he's not using the melted dodge shadow strikes. So yeah, interesting by a ba, but maybe just the thing about Queen of Pain, what she did right there, and not only did she have a sentry ward, so maybe Abba realized that he couldn't know because there was a sentry ward there, so decided to conserve the mana. But I was going to say, Queen of Pain actually walked right up next to the TA, so it would be a lot more difficult to melt dodge it, but then I realized the sentry ward is actually the Radiance. But yeah, Rising Stars, even if they don't manage to get the mid-game timing push, they have really strong late game, so if it comes out to a late game versus late game affair, I'm not really too sure who to call it. As, I mean, there is always the threat of the Gyrocopter Rapier, but actually in terms of raw late game prowess, I think I have to slightly favor Rising Stars because Juggernaut is not going to build towards late game items. What's going very, very poorly for Rising Stars is that Lone Druid is literally not doing anything. He might be able to get his first CS and first experience of the game, but he won't even hit level 2 off the back of this. The good thing is that he got Stout Shield on his bear, so he can potentially jungle. He has enough might to get a Coin Blade if he wants to get to the jungle a bit faster, as he is just going to walk the bear around and have the creep speed delayed a bit, so these creeps will actually push in a bit harder. So good maneuvering of the Spirit Bear by the Lone Druid player, but still, he's only going to see his first creep die. It's 4 minutes in the game, so far, this is not going well. I mean, Mikhail's is already freaking level 5 compared to the Lone Druid's level 1, and you can see the Flak End by itself is going to drive the Lone Druid back. Mikhail is actually, interesting enough, going to save 1 skill point, obviously debating whether he should get it in the homing missile if he needs it, or getting an additional point to Rocket Barrage. Although, no, he didn't get any into stats. But Lone Druid finally able to get some semblance of CS, and we'll be able to get the experience off the Mui again. Can he get the last hit? No, the catapult hits for just a bit too hard. And Alchemist saving up a lot of gold. Will he go for the fast Midas? I think it's a decent option. I'm normally not a huge fan of Alchemist getting Midas, but when you're getting absolute free farm, why the heck not? You'll get such an experience advantage. You'll hit level 16, and when you're level 16 Alchemist, when everybody's like level 12, you're pretty much immortal, even if you don't do as much DPS. But we're going to see a smoke attempt by Mith-Trust. I don't know if the bear spotted it out, as he was blocked a bit, and it looks like the Lone Druid player is not gonna sense this is coming, as, oh no, Mofi, say it ain't so, my friend. Trying to juke in the trees, does manage to get resummoned onto the bear, but they're gonna immediately lift it up. Here comes the Gyrocopter with the call down, and the Darkseer Ion Shell will be enough to help seal the deal, as Gyrocopter does pick up the first blood. Nice smoke gank by Mith-Trust, as not only did they kill the Lone Druid, who was essential in terms of keeping him down, they're also getting a tower push, and they got first blood on the Gyrocopter, so really, really nice move by Mith-Trust. And actually, Juggernaut's level 4, so his pulls have been going quite well. On the mid lane, Aba in a lot of trouble, out of mana, but the Scream Pain is going to whiff as here comes a teleport in. I think Aba is going to die nonetheless. Yeah, the Soul Scepter doing almost enough as, oh man, Aba, if he escapes from this, oh, Queen of Pain damage over time, just a bit too much, but Gyrocopter is here on the pursuit. One more hit will finish off the Visage, does do so successfully, so Lakelz picks him up, hit himself up a second kill, but did have to burn TP, but probably worth it in the end.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
What's unfortunate for Mith-Trust is even though they got a solid counter gank, TA is a momentum-dependent hero. If she doesn't get off to a good start, then she will have a lot of problem. But her CS is quite respectable. But the more important misfortune in this game is that the tower is pushed so early on, and it looks like the creeps are not being pulled. So this lone druid will get a lot of free experience. So that's why in some situations it might just be better to constantly keep it with static farm, because now the lone druid has a chance to get himself back in the game. I mean, the tower gold is definitely very useful for the supports of Mith-Trust. Get some boots may perhaps provide a bit of pressure on the Rising Star supports who definitely don't have enough money for boots. But again, it is at the cost of giving lone druid a lot of extra levels that he might not have gotten. He definitely wouldn't have gotten if Mith-Trust just static farmed. But we'll see if these boots going to pay off as Darks are going to rotate to the bottom lane. It is level 5, so he will have that extra point to surge to escape from most sticky scenarios. Meanwhile, Visage just trying to do some pulls. Level 3, pretty solid, but again, very, very poor in terms of his farm as the Ice Frog flying overhead. Man, that Blue Frog watching over everything, as he commonly does. Ba is still farming away. Templar or Queen of Pain unable to get too much accomplished in the early to mid stages of the game. Looks like her farm will be a bit delayed as Queen of Pain does sense the oncoming supports, as the support's going to angrily kill the ward, and Queen of Pain should be very, very safe. But it looks like the supports are going to gear up for a potential tower push, even if they can't get the gank off, as they're venturing very far forward, and that ward definitely spotted out the Juggernaut placing this Observer ward, so Queen of Pain has full knowledge that there are multiple people there. And you can see the supports instead rotating, deciding to make better usage of their time. And all the while, again, Lone Druid was able to pick himself up a level 5. Keep in mind, 4 minutes of the game, he was freaking level 1. And in the past 4 minutes, he managed to pick himself up 4 levels. So, good job by Mofi, but also might have been a bit of a mistake of Rising Stars. And now he has enough to get to the jungle and farm relatively quickly, as he will have that Blades of Attack, as the courier gonna die. Templar Assassin was able to snap it, so that is so that is a very, very big victory for the Templar Assassin, as that will deny a lot of item delivery. Fortunately, the Queen of Pain already got her bottle, but still, it's going to be difficult for Queen of Pain to gank other lanes without having items in tow, as now the haste rune being popped in TA looks like they're going to go for an engaging XDD, and a lot of trouble going to pop the Spike Carapace, but TA has not yet unloaded her abilities. Air going to take a lot of damage. Looks like Juggernaut just a bit too slow. TA meld with the call down as Lakelz picks up a killing spree, his 3rd kill in the game. Will be more than enough to clean up the Queen of Pain. So Mith-Trust playing so aggressively, and they are going to take a pretty good, big advantage. They're going to claim their 2nd tower of the game with the help of the healing ward. Juggernaut is actually getting close to level 6 despite being a support. Darkseer has not been troubled too much in terms of farm. Templar Assassin been able to get some decent farm on Lakelz, even if he hasn't been, farming uninterrupted. He's been able to pick up 3 kills, which is going to help to make it up by quite a bit. But, and here's the big but, Alchemist. As Alchemist is not going to go for Mice, instead going to go for Battle Fury. So I guess this is more of a split pushing oriented Alchemist. He wants to get the split push going ASAP, rather than just taking some experience and trying to rice it up. So I think that's a pretty solid choice against the Juggernaut, and actually we see Battle Fury on Alchemist more and more common. I mean, Battle Fury is not always necessary because, I mean, you do get a lot of mana and HP regen from your ultimate, but when your ultimate's down, you actually do need a lot of mana if you want to spam the Acid Spray. So that's one component. Again, Alchemist is also a heavy farm. Battle Fury will help you farm. That's another component. And finally, the Battle Fury will help split push, which I think is the biggest component, because as always with most Juggernaut lineups, you want to group up and push as 5 in order to make the maximum efficiency of the healing ward and just overpower your enemy, because you have 5 heroes with the help of the healing ward backing you up. And if Alchemist just split pushes, then you are going to force a rotation nonetheless. And Alchemist is one of those heroes that if you teleport into counter gank, he's not really afraid like an anti-mage. He will fight you very early on because he is ridiculously tanky and he has a stun. So that is going to be quite threatening if he manages to pick up a fast Battle Fury, which is more than he's gonna have it in the next 20 gold. So, Mith-Trust, we're going to have to see what they do. They picked up the Phase Boots as well as Shadow Blade on the Gyrocopter. His farm is quite impressive. 72 CS with a couple ganks here and there. Very, very impressive by Lakels. As he's going to go for a split pushing build himself, trying to get the creeps pushed out. I think this is the correct build because Rising Stars, even though they're going to go for a split pushing Alchemist with a Lone Druid, you are going to group up and take towers with your other 3 heroes, so split pushing is definitely going to be a viable option. Also, you can escape from the Alchemist, who probably won't buy detection, as TNK going to be a lot of trouble at XDD. Vendetta in-game will get the stun on the Darkseer. The stun will be perfectly timed, perfectly chained. The Iron Shell doing a lot of work, and TNK might just be able to escape despite Carapace. Actually, was in effect to take some of the Iron Shell damage, but TNK, luckily for him, escapes. Very, very fortuitous by TNK, as he managed to escape that. Just not enough damage. Visage was not there to provide the extra bit of burst from the Soul Assumption, and that is going to be very crucial because, again, Darkseer is going to be the linchpin of Mith-Trust's mid-game. TA just going to dive past the tower. The healer has already been used, but it looks like this pesky siege unit going to delay the push for a moment's notice, and every moment is a bit annoying because, meanwhile, Rising Star is going to look to push in on the middle lane, as they are going to get a reaction from the Darkseer. Darkseer will teleport there, does not have a point to wall. He's rushing forward very, very aggressively as Lakel's going to pop the Shadow Blade, going to get one call down missile, will be able to hit the second one. Yes, just barely. The vacuum will suck Mofi right back in there. Iron Shell and Fade Bolt going to be more than enough to clean up the Lone Druid. So good defense by Mith-Trust, and they were able to get the tower. So really, really strong play by Mith-Trust thus far in this game. They're playing so very sharp, and Rising Stars, they've got to be feeling a bit worried because this Lone Druid not been able to get too much going for him, and the tower count is 3 towers to nothing in favor of Mith-Trust. But again, I mean, if it comes down to late game versus late game, I do favor Rising Stars just slightly because their heroes in general scale a lot better. But I mean, Mith-Trust late game is not too shabby either. But checking out the Golden Experience Gold in favor of Rising Stars, actually looks like the Alchemist Grievous Greed Gold helping out to make up quite a big deficit, because I think Rising Stars would be a bit more ahead if the Alchemist was not in the game. Experience graph slightly in favor of Rising Stars as well. They've been playing a lot more aggressively. But, I mean, again, they have yet to address the Alchemist issue, and he's going to become a bigger and bigger issue as the game goes on. You know, XTD level 6, Visage not even level 6, so that's a bit annoying. Unless the Visage manages to pick up the level 6, he really can't contribute too much in terms of ganks because the global familiar presence won't be there. And he can't even protect heroes like the Lone Druid if he is going to get ganked. But he will hit level 6 relatively soon, so that shouldn't be too big of an issue in the near future. We got Lone Druid going to rush the Armlet. The Armlet is very, very good on Lone Druid because it gives you the regen, it gives you the armor, which is probably the biggest deal. It gives you a big bit of damage, but the armor is definitely the biggest deal. And the regen just means you can pull it back and just siege the tower again. But it's more of a pushing item, and I guess Mith-Trust or Rising Stars do want to push up eventually. And the way they're going to do that is to open up the map on the back of Alchemist's split pushing.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Armlet, I think, is the right item. I was a bit hesitant at the beginning when I thought about it, but after reconsidering, I definitely agree with that as Mith-Trust gonna smoke up. I think this is pretty obvious smoke gank because they're not defending the bomb tower, but Alchemist looks like he's not going to fall for it. Actually, it was not as obvious as I might have suspected. Unfortunately for Juggernaut, his Omni Slash is going to bounce and hit all the creeps. Looks like Alchemist might just be able to barely escape. He will! Oh my god. XD or SD gonna be super miffed that the Omni Slash only hit the Alchemist once, but Alchemist very, very good positioning as he managed to pull double creeps. Of course he did that in order to farm a lot more efficiently, but that had the added benefit of soaking up an Omni Slash, and that cost Mith-Trust his smoking as well as a valuable farming time for the Juggernaut as well as the Gyrocopter. Meanwhile, Lone Druid looks like he doesn't really care about the Darkseer. Just gonna pressure it. Darkseer, I imagine, is getting close to the mech. Since he did get the second courier, looks like his farm is a bit delayed, but we'll have the mech up relatively soon, but he might be in a bit of trouble, and it looks like they are going to stun him once again. TNK going to be engaged upon, but here comes the Nyx with the Impale, gonna get the stun going, and with the Darkseer dead, that is going to allow Rising Stars to push down the top tower, so a vital kill for Rising Stars, as now they're going to definitely appreciate that. Fortunately for TNK, he didn't lose that much gold, as he wasn't really that close to the mech recipe, but again, that death is going to cost him a tower. And Rising Stars definitely benefit a lot from tower gold.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
Meanwhile, Abba
Radiant's
managed to pick up
bottom
a
tower
Yasha,
is
Queen
under
of Pain.
attack.
Not too much, as she has not been able to get too many ganks going, as Lone Druid will kill off the tower and will just teleport away to safety. Nothing can really stop him. As XDD actually going to get lifted up, he will get killed off, but a Nyx in exchange for a tower is going to be a trade that Rising Stars will be more than happy to get any day of the week. Meanwhile, Alchemist is going to go for all out split pushing. He's going to go Battle Fury into Shadowblade. Shadowblade, of course, very useful item. Gives you a reliable way to charge up your stun under the cover of fog if there are no sentry wards there, or a gem. Gives you move speed, gives you attack speed, which synergizes very well with Alchemist, but the haste is going to be used. The stun not going to do enough to slow down the TA, but the Alchemist ultimate gonna be enough, as TA has to be a bit hesitant, probably waiting for the Alchemist chemical rage to time out, and it does time out, but unfortunately Alchemist does make it to the cover of the tower, so a bit unfortunate for Mith-Trust there, but they managed to drive away the Alchemist, and Alchemist managed to get the kills, and I love what the TA is doing with their traps. I think she realizes that she only needs 1 or 2 traps when chasing, so she's just using it to block off the camps. Unfortunately, this trap placed in a bit of a wrong location, but hopefully this trap for her will block off the ancient spawn. I don't know if the traps actually block off the ancient spawn. I guess we'll find out very shortly. Meanwhile, Mith-Trust driving like the Alchemist, looking to secure Roshan, and they can definitely take it. TA, of course, gives you a lot of minus armor on the Roshan with your meld, and the heal ward means that even if Rising Stars engage, Mith-Trust will all be at full HP, and the birds also got killed. So it looks like it will be a successful Roshan being taken by Locales, but the stun will go down to hit Locales as well as TA because this Alchemist stun does hit an AoE. R5 getting a lot of HP taken from him as SD gonna be caught in an entangle, and he has nowhere to run. Meanwhile, Mith-Trust just looking to get the heck out of there. We'll be able to get out of there as Juggernaut gonna buy back, so Mith-Trust have intentions of going back on the offensive. Not too sure what SD is thinking, as I guess the buyback cost was not too immense. Maybe they knew that Rising Stars was pushing for mid, but I don't think they can even defend mid tower. A slight mistake by Rising Stars, or by Mith-Trust, and a good response by Rising Stars to the Roshan attempt, as now TA can play aggressively, but they managed to get 2 kills, and they did not lose anybody in exchange. Queen of Pain looks like she's going to rush the Hex. I don't imagine she really needs Lincolns. I mean, what will she need Lincolns against? Telekinesis? This is definitely going to be a fast Hex rush, as Gyrocopter going to go for that BKB. It is relatively farm. Actually picked up a Helmet Dominator as well, so he is actually farming ridiculously well. 20 minutes in the game, this Gyrocopter's gold per minute. I mean, it's pretty solid. 555 considering how many creeps are spawning is definitely very respectable, but a lot of that is coming from the tower kills. Meanwhile, the GPM of the Alchemist. He's an Alchemist with a Battle Fury. His GPM will always be high. But yeah, back to the Shadowblade. In conjunction with the Battle Fury and the increased attack speed and the extra bit of damage, he will just be able to mow down creeps super easily. It's like he has a mini Maelstrom. But Alchemist might be in a terrible situation as the Rain Ward not going to spot out the movement of the Dire as, oh no, Alchemist going to take a meld right to the face, has no teleport. He is most certainly screwed as the Omnislash is actually going to pick up the kill. Big questionable about SD as he is making some interesting decisions here and there, but I guess whatever gets the job done. But now, I mean, Omnislash I don't think is really that big of a deal in terms of damage because this is a poor Juggernaut. I think it's more just like the extra bit of invulnerability that it gives for the Juggernaut that might be a bit more important, and he won't have that for the next 110, 120 seconds. Meanwhile, Mith-Trust going to group up, looking to push down the bottom tower. They should be able to come out without too much of a fuss as Rising Star is actually going to rotate and try to take top tower instead of going for the mid tower. Maybe they just feel a bit hesitant in terms of going for the mid tower. Top tower is actually a bit easier to take because the enemy tends to teleport in and engage from the lower ground. And actually the teleport was cancelled on the top lane by the Templar Assassin, even though she did... Oh, actually, the Kelsic Mages, not the Templar Assassin. I think I would have rather seen it go to the TA, just so she can play a lot more aggressively. But still, Mith-Trust coming out ahead in that engagement. Got a tower, got the Alchemist, and they didn't even lose their top tier 2 in exchange. So Rising Stars having a bit of trouble with these TI opponents. Mith-Trust, even though I haven't seen them play that many games, they're definitely showing a lot of poise as they're taking to this Chinese team. It's probably the weakest Chinese team in the qualifiers, but definitely this team cannot be underestimated. Rising Stars has made an impact in the past. I think they got 2nd place in some league. I'm not too sure, to like LGD China or something like that. So, I mean, they're not as strong as the top Chinese teams, but they definitely can't be taken lightly either. Alchemists continue to farm up, checking out the golden experience graph. Gold slightly in favor of Mith-Trust, even though they only have to claim 2 towers, whereas Rising Stars has to claim 4 towers. And again, I think a lot of that is coming from the Alchemist experience graph. Only slightly in Rising Stars' favor because Rising Stars, or in Mith-Trust's favor, because Mith-Trust constantly have to group up as 5. And Lone Druid and Alchemist can sort of farm on their own. And we'll have to see what Lone Druid decides to go for, as it will probably be the Maelstrom first if they want to split push, as the stun will fly into push away Lakel's, and Lakel, or TNK, and Alchemist does pick up another tower. And Mith-Trust, they actually have pretty solid weapons to bring down the Alchemist, because Gyrocopter at this point is getting such good farm that he can do a lot of damage, and the TA will be able to just eat through the Alchemist armor until he gets an AC. But still, this Alchemist is going to be very scary, especially with the Lone Druid backup and the many stuns that Rising Stars have, that it's never really going to be guaranteed if you go for the Alchemist in a team fight. Darkseer has finally been able to claim his mechanism, gonna work towards the pipe, which is definitely a necessity up against an AoE stun in the form of Impale. Queen of Pain, which a lot of her damage, or the majority of damage, does come from the nukes. The Visage, which does do a lot of damage in the form of the Soul Assumption. And even the Alchemist, Acid Spray is mixed damage, so if you want to push in, you want to have to go through the Acid Spray, so Pipe will definitely help in that regard. Looks like Mith-Trust is going to accept the tower trade, as I don't think they will be fast enough to get back for their tier 2. Yeah, their tier 2 is definitely going to fall. Instead, it looks like they're grouping out to pressure the tier 3. And with Lakel still having the Aegis, they definitely can do this, but the Aegis will only be up for another 45 seconds or so Mith-Trust have to make the most of this. And the question is, will Rising Stars even try to defend this? They will, as they do not have Glyph up, so they're going to have to engage relatively soon. Queen of Pain with the double Dantron will be enough to drive back Mith-Trust, as Mith-Trust, it's a bit iffy for them to push in, because Acid Spray and Queen of Pain Sonic Wave will just tear through them, because Sonic Wave will hit a multitude of targets in this very confined AoE, and Mith-Trust, unfortunately for them, yet to pick up a pipe, even though Darkseer is working his way towards it. Just checking out the rest of the items. TA picked up a gem, so not only to spot the Alchemist, but also to get the D-wards going. So Mith-Trust looking to get control over the map, because split pushing Alchemist, if he has map control, he will just be able to do whatever he wants. He's so tanky that he really does not have to fear more than 4 or 5 people, or more than 3 people if they go in to try to take his head. So TA Gem is going to delay her BKB. Rubik looks like he's probably going to work towards a dagger or a force staff. I think the best build steal would probably be Familiars or the Nerubian Assassin Impale, because that is a pretty long duration stun. 2.75 seconds is pretty fucking good, especially in AoE. So Blink Dagger could be a necessity up against the NA. Sonic Wave, of course, would be ridiculously useful, as well as, ooh, Juggernaut! Into such grave danger as Gyrocopter teleported out from the cover of the Shadow Blade. Actually, Shadow Blade wasn't even used. They just chose to not engage on the Gyrocopter. That was very risky by Mith-Trust. But Rising Star is a bit slow to react. Queen of Pain finishes a 23 Hex Stick. And even though she hasn't been able to get to a good start, she has picked up a lot of CS, so this Hex will be very useful, especially since the TA has not picked up the BKB. And Juggernaut, of course, once the Blade Fury is out, and once he can't Omnislide, she can Hex him up as well. But it's going to be especially crucial up on the Darkseer, because if you disable the Darkseer, there goes the majority of Mith-Trust teamfight lineup, as here comes the Blink and Hex up onto the Juggernaut. R5 knows he can't possibly save his friend, just going to get the heck out of there. And now, Mith-Trust know that there is a Hex up, and if all they lost was the support Juggernaut, I think they can count themselves lucky. Although they might need Healing Ward in this defense. We'll see what Mith-Trust decides to do, as TA does not have a teleport scroll. Gonna sell her wand in order to pick it up and finish the BKB all at the same motion. Actually, gonna buy the BKB recipe, but she will not have the TP in order to get that. Is gonna sell her bottle in order to get that TP, as the vacuum wall will be there. TA gonna try to teleport herself to the top lane, but it looks like that bottle being sold was all for naught. So TA, a bit of, weird decision making. I think she would have been fine if she just delayed her BKB being picked up. I mean, I don't think you want to sell both your wand as well as your magic stick. But still, I mean, it's not the biggest deal. In the end, the tower got defended, and that's all that really matters. But again, Rising Star's lamp is ridiculously difficult to push into. Acid Spray, Nyx Stun, Sonic Wave, Visage familiars, Soul Assumptions will just constantly push Mith-Trust away. So they're gonna have to wait for the next stages, otherwise it's gonna be difficult breaking into the Rising Star base. And now that Rising Stars do have a lot of farm on their heroes, they will probably be able to contest the Roshan, even with TA doing a lot of extra minus on them with the Meld being maxed. Mith-Trust looking to claim the last tier 2 on the map as Gyrocopter getting dangerously close to a big DPS item, and this is always what Gyrocopter loves. He knows he has to pick up a BKB and the drums are Shadow Blade, but once he gets that first DPS item, finally he can just be like, I don't have to worry about the nukes hitting, I can just right click and right click to my heart's content. You know, Darkseer has finished the hood, but not yet the pipe, so it is a bit tricky engaging into this. The healing ward gonna be pulled away as the creep wave was demolished. You know, the Lone Druid actually picked up Vlad's. Very good item on Lone Druid, but not something you see every day because usually a support is gonna pick it up, but I guess this Lone Druid wanted to have that extra bit of pushing ASAP, and Vlad's will be very useful for the Alchemist, for pushing, for armor, for damage. It's a very, very useful item in general. And I'm actually a bit surprised that we don't see it more on Lone Druids as a second item choice after the armor, but I guess the other items are also very, very useful. I mean, Maelstrom, Basher, ridiculously useful items as well. And if you get the support, if you have a support who can pick up the Vlads, then all the power to you. What I'm a bit worried about for Rising Stars, well, not really worried about, is that they are pretty limited in terms of defensive items. They're just relying on the natural tank ability of the heroes. They have no mech, and it looks like they don't really have any intentions of building into one. They don't have any pipe or anything like that. You know, Darkseer has a mech as well as a pipe. So it's going to be very critical for Rising Stars to isolate the Darkseer, because if he manages to survive, he can just give his team so much extra survivability that they might just be able to overpower and outlast the Rising Star squad. And of course, there is the healing ward to always worry about, but I mean, with the Lone Druid, it's a bit easier because then you can just send your bear one auto attack will easily be able to call it down, or even use a hero because your bear does more damage in general. You know, the split pushing Alchemist pushes so fast this tower will die without too much of a problem. And Alchemist claims another tower, actually fish and AC as the ward's going to be scouted out. The gem is actually up on the Queen of Pain. So, very, very tense game. These two teams know that this is it. If they lose this match, they're going to be knocked out of the qualifiers. So that's why the kill score is only 6-5, but I feel like this game is very, very intelligently played. Not many mistakes being made, other than maybe like the Juggernaut buyback and the TA with some interesting eye management. But this game has been ridiculously well played, as the Gyrocopter gonna go for the Eagle Horn rather than, or Eagle Song rather than going for the MKB, and I gotta approve this choice because he probably knows eventually Bear will go for MKB, Alchemist might go for an MKB, try to make the most of the evasion because there is a lot of physical damage being pumped by Rising Stars, so might as well have the evasion, and of course the extra attack speed, the extra damage will definitely be extremely useful, and even the armor gonna be useful as well. And we'll see if Alchemist is going to be forced to rush an MKB, as he might even finish it if he does decide to go for that option before Gyrocopter finishes his Butterfly. But actually, Rising Stars push out the middle lane. They're trying to get in position for the Roshan, but no, they know it's a bit risky against Darkseer, especially on the Radiant side. If they are the Dire side, they might poke and prod, but being on the Radiant side, you have such a path to commit. You can't really commit as the Radiant without getting a pick off. Or cutting the middle tier 2 at the very least. Quap gonna pick up the plate mail, so she is gonna go for Shiva's guard. I mean, it'll give her survivability, it'll give a nice AoE, but pretty standard.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
I mean, if you look at Quap, she really doesn't need a BKB because there's not too much magical damage being pumped out by Mith-Trust. Only called out Rocket Barrage, Blade Fury, and some Darkseer Ion Shell residual damage. Maybe the vacuum, but not really anything to write home about. If you dodge a Gyrocopter magical damage, then you can dodge just the majority of Mith-Trust magical damage. So BKB not being picked up, I feel like is the right choice. Aghanims, I think, could have been a good call, but definitely not going to say no to Shiva's, as it'll give her a lot of survivability, as well as getting that nice AoE slow and a bit of extra burst damage, which definitely won't hurt. As now the Deadly Dance for Roshan is going to commence. Alchemist is going to actually use Shadow Blade, and then Rising Star is going to use Smoker C, as Mith-Trust don't have any idea that Rising Stars have smoked up. They probably have an inkling because Rising Stars are missing off the map. But Rising Stars looking perhaps wrap around from the dire ancient camp, as yes, they are going to go that way, but Mith-Trust, knowing that that is probably one of the paths that Rising Stars could potentially take, going to always stay together, stay near their tier 2, but actually Rising Stars, if they choose to engage, they will have the high ground advantage, as this will be the beginning of a huge T5 familiar. Is going to be signed as TNK, going to be a lot of trouble if TNK dies right here. That is going to be a huge loss, as he is going to die. No pipe, no wall, no mecha. As Air gonna get sliced and diced. No, the extra slash not gonna hit, so it's gonna be a 1-for-1 trade. Lakel's, unfortunately for him, will get entangled, rooted up. Lakel's gonna buy back, and you can see once the Darkseer dies, everything goes downhill for Mith-Trust in a team fight. And Gyrocopter forced to buy back. Looks like Visage just gonna teleport on out of there as the bear still at healthy HP. And the Gyrocopter buyback might not be too bad for Mith-Trust in the end, because now they can go for Roshan, because they still have the wall. So even though Darkseer died, well, he's not responding just yet, so I think Mith-Trust might be being a bit too hasty, as you can see the bear disrupting. I think Mith-Trust are being way too hasty. They need the Darkseer. They really need the wall as well as the pipe, as, oh no, Abba gonna get stunned. Does have the BKB, does dodge it, but that means he won't have the BKB for the team fight. Man, I think Mith-Trust making a couple mistakes, and in a mistake as crucial, in a game as crucial as this, it's going to cost them, as the stun going to be charged up by the Rubik. Meanwhile, cooldown, not going to hit too much of anything, but the Alchemist, or the AoE stun, going to hit a lot. The wall going to be used, only going to catch the Alchemist. Alchemist being forced, driven away. This might just be an intimidation wall. Gyrocopter venturing very, very far, but keep in mind, he already used his buyback, so he's got to be very, very careful on his positioning. Wall being used, and Mith-Trust, if they can't get the Roshan from this, it's going to be a huge loss, because Gyrocopter already bought back, and Gyrocopter is caught up by his lonesome. He's going to pop the BKB, he will kill off XDD. You know, the bear going to work, the bear doing huge amounts of damage. Juggernaut going to do a Blade Fury, twirling away like a beautiful ballerina, as the Shadow Blade Alchemist is being pursued. He will die as the trap will be sprung. Alchemist probably has to turn around. He's going to go on the offensive. Does manage to get a beautiful AoE stun, with a vacuum will be enough to pick him off. He does have buyback, and he's going to need to do just that if he wants to protect the Roshan. You know, Queen of Pain being hunted. She is being hunted, and she might just end up being sniped. She will be able to break away once again, but Mith-Trust, they are relentless. They want to push the issue. No, they're going to back off. Smart move by them in the end. Alchemist, are you going to buy back? Are you going to try to defend this Roshan? The creepy Equilibrium on the bottom lane might suggest that Mith-Trust won't, or Rising Stars won't pursue the issue. So in the end, it is a victory for Mith-Trust, even after Gyrocopter buyback. As wow, only 2 or 3 kills happened, but still, such a tense situation, as both teams so very, very determined not to give either team any ounce of breathing room. But Gyrocopter picks the Aegis, gotta be very pleased. The good thing for Rising Stars is that even though they lost the Alchemist, they didn't use any buybacks. They used one on the Nyx, but it's a Nyx buyback. So Alchemist does a lot of gold to work with. Bad thing is that they're fighting an Aegis Gyrocopter who's about to finish his butterfly. And yes, the butterfly is being shipped towards him as we speak there. Nice deny attempt by the Clop, unfortunately not there. The bear was actually hitting kills for a lot of damage. I was wondering how it was possible, but I guess yes, Arbus says Air gonna get lifted up in the air. The wall not placed very well at all. And this is definitely gonna delay Mith-Trust's push, as Rising Stars will be more than happy to spam all their stuff from the high ground. So a couple of mistakes by TNK here and there. Him dying in that engagement probably wasn't a mistake, but I guess Mith-Trust, they still have a lot of time left on the Aegis. They might want to get Gyrocopter's buyback, and TA gonna be more than happy to clean up the Storm on the top lane, trying to work her way towards the Manta or something else of that nature. Maybe the Desolator. Desolator would probably be very useful in breaking the base, as it is still difficult for Mith-Trust to actually break the base of Rising Stars.
Dire's courier has been killed.
You know, the courier in no man's land, very poorly microed, as Rising Stars getting themselves a courier kill as well. But I mean, Mith-Trust have a second courier, so it's not the biggest deal. It's just going to give Rising Stars a bit of extra bank. Alchemist, I wonder what his next item will be. Basher is probably a likely choice, because Gyrocopter, if he doesn't get bashed, you know, he will be ridiculously difficult to fight, because he has his butterfly up now. As a mass disconnect from Rising Stars, probably their land cafe timed out, so I'm going to take a sip of water as I pull down the graphs. Interestingly enough, Rising Stars actually have the advantage in terms of gold, and I guess that makes sense because they are up against an Alchemist, and they only have one fewer tower. Experience advantage slightly in favor of the Dire. So overall, this game is as even as you can possibly hope. The thing that might tip Mith-Trust over the edge could potentially be this Aegis as well as this Butterfly. An Alchemist, will he choose to go for MKB or will he choose to go for Basher into Abyssal? I think Basher into Abyssal is the better choice and let Bear try to get the MKB, but Bear picked up the Maelstrom, definitely a very strong item, but still, this Bear is ridiculously underleveled, not even level 16. So he is a lot less tanky than he could potentially be, but Mith-Trust charging forward very, very bravely. Can they force the engagement? They have the wall back online, they had the Aegis up for another 2.5 minutes. If they want to solo play, they could potentially push off the top lane a bit more, but I think now is as good a time as any to strike. This Juggernaut, he is just a walking healing ward, that's all. He's just gonna play the Fountain Knot. TNK finished the pipe, so I guess that's what Mith-Trust are winning for. Yeah, I guess that was the pipe that Darkseer just managed to finish. So if they, I mean, this is a pretty good timing, but Darkseer really needs to get a successful wall because without the wall, then it's going to be still very difficult to break the Rising Stars base. This tier 3 has yet to take a single point of damage, and the Rising Stars still have the glyph online. Yeah, Nick's just going to tank up relentlessly. I can see why Nyx did this. I'd rather you go for Ghost Scepter, but Ghost Scepter, that requires you having 1600 gold, and this Nyx is probably not ever going to hold on to that much money unless they manage to win a team fight, because Nyx is not getting any farm. He's not going to go for ganks because Mith-Trust are constantly grouped up his fight. It's way too risky for the Nyx. So he's just going to buy bracers because they're cheaper and it gives him some nice survivability. Visage. Very, very under-farmed, but still 3-1-2. The problem against a Gyrocopter with a Visage as you're behind is that the Film Wheelers are very, very easy food, as Gyrocopter will kill it in a matter of seconds. 1 or 2 shots by the Flat Can, which hits everything, will be more than enough to clean up the Familiars. And the Visage doesn't have anything like a mech to make him relevant. The only thing he can do is tank, and he will have to tank very, very hard in order to make his presence known. Alchemist still holding on to buyback, the smart option. I'd rather he buy one item, so if he buys back he can immediately have one extra item in place of the teleport scroll, but you can definitely understand. I guess he wants to save up for the huge item and then surprise Mith-Trust once he does manage to pick it up. Quap, still far away from the Shiva's Guard, has not been able to farm too much farm. Rubik, still far away from any items. Queen, or Templar Assassin, not with the Desolator, so the pipe is finished, but I mean, if they just waited 500 extra gold, which can be cleaned up in a matter of two waves, then TA would have a Desolator pushing in. But I mean, if Mith-Trust can just force the glyph and not risk too much, then I think they can potentially just go back and farm. But Lakel, the wave is being pushed by the Maelstrom, and he's actually going to go to the high ground, going to go to work the Flat Can, splashing out, doing a lot of damage to the Cubs. Going to back off, does not pop the BKB. It is the right move. And Heal Ward has been used, so Mith-Trust are in an awkward position because the creep wave is still quite far away. I think they should back off. I don't know why they're pressing this year. They don't have the Desolator up, and the Healing Ward won't be at its maximum time. And actually the Bear trying to snipe it off. As the spray being stolen by Rubik, very, very annoying still. As stun going in for Lakel's, here comes the Darkseer. He's roaming in with the wall, but good split by the Rising Star squad. They're going to pick off Lakel's Aegis. And Mith-Trust, they have to back off now. They really don't have too many choices. They have the BKB up on the gyro. I don't know why they're so keen on pressuring the issue. They haven't used any force to glyph. Taking an immediate initiate with the BKB, but the Bear just ripping through her. The acid spray just ripping through that fraction. And Alchemist going to work. Gonna focus on TNK. The wall still in a very solid position, only allowing the Alchemist through. Sonic Wave gonna completely whiff, but the Heal Ward not being in effect is gonna severely hurt Mith-Trust survivability. Man, oh man, I don't know why Mith-Trust are so keen on pushing these two. They had so much time left on the Aegis, and they still do. But now the Aegis is gone, and Lakel's, if he dies, this will be such a huge loss. As Queen of Pain has a gem, TNK gonna trade his life. It is the right call, but oh my god, Mith-Trust. even without the Disslayer, I think they could have pushed in, but they used the heal ward so very early on. And I think that was the mistake, because heal ward is expired once Creep Wave approached the tower. Mith-Trust in the end, they lost 2 heroes as well as an Aegis in exchange for a tier 3, and Rising Star is going to immediately get a tier 2 in response. So that trade was definitely not worth it for Mith-Trust, and that's going to give Rising Stars a huge opening. They did not lose anybody in the fight. Alchemist floating with 7.1k gold in the bank. And he is, again, going to be ridiculously difficult to bring down. He's going to go for a heart most likely, so he's going to be even more difficult to bring down. Darkseer not yet up. He will have the wall in line, so Rising Stars looking to back up appropriately. The bear just doing a couple more swipes on the tower, giving it high fives all over its face. But looks like the bomb tower being pressured as well by the natural creep progression, and Alchemist is going to be more than happy to snatch up this farm. And Alchemist, he still can make 4 more items. 3 more items if you don't count the boots, because in the late stage of this game, you can just sell the Battle Fury. You don't have anything like a Chronosphere or a Vacuum to help set it up. And you can just get a lot of items. You can pick up a heart. The only 2 items that will remain the same for the Alchemist is going to be the BKB and the AC. So he's going to pick up a heart, may go for something like an Abyssal Blade, and sell his Battle Fury, may get an MKB. And Mith-Trust still pushing the issue. Now they have a better shot, but now they're going in without the Aegis, and actually Aegis would have just timed out if Mith-Trust had just been a bit more patient. But still, they have a reasonable shot. Rising Stars, good play, actually saving the glyph, so they can hold on if they really need to. And Alchemist is going to buy himself 2 javelins. It was a finished MKB. I was wondering, I didn't see the Demon Edge on the courier, but actually it was on the courier, and the javelins are actually in stash. So MKB will be finished by Alchemist, so vision not really going to matter on the gyrocopter anymore. And I gotta imagine the bear is going to go for an MKB as well for his next item. Mith-Trust, what are they going to do to break the base? I think the Aegis was the best option. But still, it's at the point where Rising Stars still scale ridiculously well that Mith-Trust kind of have to make a move, because TA, you saw, even with the BKB, got absolutely obliterated, and Alchemist doesn't even have a bash or anything like that. And it's not like TA is going to get tankier as the game goes on. She doesn't build tanky, she builds glass cannon-ish. So if they want to make the most out of this TA, they gotta sort of go right now. Still 8 seconds left on the TA BKB. Gyro 7 seconds, so reasonably timed BKBs. No BKBs other than the Alchemist, who's down to 7 seconds as well. Shiva's Guard gonna be very close to completion for the Queen of Pain, as Gold Graph reflects an immediate jump for Rising Stars. Experience Graph favoring Rising Stars as well, but the Experience Graph 40 minutes in the game doesn't really mean as much. But you can see the downfall of Support Juggernaut. Once Healing Ward's done, at this moment in the game, Omnislash does next to nothing. Visage, ridiculously tanky. Queen of Pain can just, blink towards a teammate and have the teammate absorb some of the Omnislashes. Alchemist does honestly not give a shit about Omnislash. He has so much armor and so much HP that he doesn't care. Bear does not care. He has his bear with him. He has a lot of armor as well. Nyx, he's the only one who cares, but even then, if he runs towards his teammate, Omnislash won't do anything. And this is why Support Juggernaut doesn't really work. As if this is a utility slash semi-farming Juggernaut, he'd probably have his Aghanim's finished and might be working towards a Vlad's, but this Juggernaut just way too poor in order to make that happen. But still, Mith-Trust can definitely win the game. Gyrocopter has yet to pick up another item in quite a bit. He can potentially go for Rapier, but MK will be probably more likely choices. Zhao, Tuji, going to immediately siege down the tier 3. Hex going down on the Gyrocopter. Sonic Wave being used as well. The Healing Ward is in a very strong position, as the Healing Ward going to heal up the HP of Mith-Trust by such a huge amount, but it's not enough. It's not enough. The wall going to catch everybody. Holy shit. As Alchemist does not care. Good, strong play by Zhao Tuji, as he will be on the immediate retreat. TA wants his blood. He still has the gem, and Zhao Tiji will probably die, but he has buyback. He will be more than happy to trade his life for the racks. And he is running like an absolute champ. You say, Bolt, your name is Alchemist. But he managed to get killed regardless. So what happened? The Hex by the Queen of Pain was good. It was just Mith-Trust clumping too much, because actually the Battle Fury cleaved for quite a bit of damage. I saw the cleaves, And they managed to hit a multitude of targets. The Darkseer vacuum wall, it hit everybody but the Alchemist, and Alchemist just killed the Illusion, and he didn't care. What's good for Mith-Trust is that they are alive for the Roshan, which is going to respond relatively soon, but I mean, it's a very big if, because Rising Stars are definitely going to contest it. They have the creep wave in their advantage now, on the back of the barracks being killed. And Gyrocopter bought back, so his next time is going to be pretty heavily delayed. And you can see, pretty much Gyrocopter and Darkseer were the sole reasons why Mith-Trust were able to hold on to their range barracks, at least. And they still have to use a couple buybacks. Gyrocopter gonna finish the Satanic, definitely a necessity, as he actually went for only 1 point of Rocket Barrage, instead going for a lot of stats. Interesting skill build. But, I mean, I don't think it would have mattered regardless. Rubik charging up the stun. He might get himself stunned. Surged by the Darkseer won't be there as Alchemist gonna charge up his own stun. The bird's gonna be more than enough to clean up the Rubik as Super is wicked sick. Rubik making a pretty big boo-boo. I'm not too sure why Darkseer did not just surge the Rubik away. Maybe it was on cooldown? Probably not. As now, Rising Stars on the back of that gonna claim themselves an Aegis of the Immortal, as Queen of Pain does pick it up. I don't know who got the cheese. Darkseer gonna get a huge vacuum while he's still the King of Roshan, as Alchemist not doing enough DPS, no acid spray drained through the refraction. Alchemist gonna lose his Aegis. Juggernaut still have full HP, Gyrocopter still have full HP, and Alchemist, he's dead. He doesn't have buyback. Oh my god. This is the start of a turn. Unfortunately for Mith-Trust, the creep wave is not going to be in their favor. Lone Druid died as well. He doesn't have buyback. Mith-Trust, if they push out the creep wave fast enough, they will be able to get a response barracks. But the creep equilibrium, not in their favor. Those melee creeps, or those super creeps, doing so much for Rising Stars in this case. Oh my god. Rising Stars, they still have the glyph, so they can wait another 5 seconds or so. The creep wave is pushing very, very rapidly. Sideblade's Fable gonna be enough. Rising Stars, they're going to the barracks. There's no question about it. Alchemist and Lone Druid not gonna respond. But if they should only lose 1 set of barracks. I don't think they'll lose more than 2. Man, the acid spray with the TA refraction being there just did so much work. The glyph is gonna be used. Very, very well done, as actually brilliant move by Mith-Trust. They're gonna claim the melee barracks regardless, and no Lone Druid and Alchemist are not alive. As, ooh, can they actually claim it fast enough? Gyrocopter was there on the top lane, split pushing all the while, but he's gonna get himself stunned. He does not have buyback. He's gonna take a lot of damage. He has a Satanic as well as a Shadow Blade. Will he pop the Satanic? He's not using it just yet. He's gonna go to work on the melee barracks instead, as Nyx Assassin gonna find himself picked off. Shiva's Guard gonna be his. Lakel's looking to get the heck out of there. Alchemist is there. Alchemist looking to probably pursue the issue. He's gonna stun himself. No, yes, he is gonna stun himself, and Mith-Trust gonna immediately respond with the call down. Gyrocopter, will he pop Satanic? Oh my god, Alchemist still doing an immense amount of work. The acid spray, look at how much difference the acid spray makes. Mutually assured destruction is gonna be the situation in this game, as Queen of Pain, the only survivor on the Radiant that really matters. There is gonna be a buyback by the Juggernaut, and this game has taken a huge, huge momentum swing. Gyrocopter has buyback in 40 seconds. Alchemist, no buyback still for another minute and a half. But Mith-Trust can't possibly take a Rex on the back of this. The creeps, once again, just too much. The creep equilibrium not in their favor.
Double damage.
But still, Rising Stars have to be feeling pretty good at this point, as they have been able to overpower Rising Stars. Lone Druid, not enough farm. Alchemist, at this point, he really needs a heart. He's just squishy, which is weird for an Alchemist. Once he gets a heart, though, I think he will be a-okay. He needs to sell his Battle Fury in order to make that happen if he wants to have heart as well as buyback. Meanwhile, Ba doing still a lot of DPS. I was like, oh man, the acid spray making such a huge difference. It did. It killed the Gyrocopter so quickly, even through the Satanic. And TA was drained a lot, but not enough, apparently. Not enough. Gold experience, even for the most part. Slight advantage for Mith-Trust in both categories, but I think a majority of the gold is on the back of the Alchemist's net worth. He is averaging 727 GPM. You can see he has a full 6k net worth with less last hit, so a lot of that extra bit of gold is because of the Alchemist. Gyrocopter, what will he go for next? He has Satanic. He doesn't have to go for Rapier at this point. because his team is technically winning. They have an additional set of racks. And they even, well, they don't have the range rack, so they only have one extra melee barracks. But still, I think for Mith-Trust, they should play risky as Mith-Trust going to smoke in. Looking to surprise Rising Stars. XDD going to dispel it as a bot will be spotted out. Hex will go down. The TA can't pop the BKB just yet. Here comes the vacuum in the wall. It's going to do a lot of damage. XDD going to get immediately melted down with the TA. Going to die in exchange. Kills being bashed, being mini bashed, being mini bashed. As Kills forced to retreat, he has to run away. Will Mith-Trust escape with the gyrocopter? They are going to split up. Juggernaut going to slow down the pursuit as actually gyrocopter wants to go back in, trying to fish off air. The arm slash bomb down very, very low, but that might have been a mistake. Alchemist still very, very healthy HP, but his state tech is going down very rapidly. He's going to clean up the Visage as well as the Quap. So I guess this turn on by Lacels was very much worth it. Alchemist still being chased by his own illusion. And actually, Mith-Trust are working their way to try to finish the game off. Lone Druid, no buyback. Nyx, no buyback. Quap does have buyback. She will have to buyback right now. Mith-Trust, will they back off? They know they still have the numbers there, and Visage going to buy back as well. The creeps are on the top lane. They're going to kill off the range barracks, and that is going to negate the backdoor protection, but that means Mith-Trust, they're still fighting without the wall. Lakel is going to be bursted down. Lakel will be the first casualty of this next battle. Ba going to die as well. I think he already did die. He already bought back. Yes, he did, so they're going to be fighting without TA. Alchemist looking to stun perhaps the Darkseid as Juggernaut just going to get the heck out of there. TNK in so much trouble. He is going to die. TNK, please tell me you have buyback. He does, so he can buy back. And now Rising Stars, they're in a huge world of trouble. They lost additional range barracks. They've lost all of their outer tier 3 towers, and Gyrocopter does not need to buy back. Very, very fortunate. What's good for Rising Stars is that TA does not buy back, and Alchemist did not have to buy back because he did not die. Alchemist picked up Boots Travel, smart choice, but still, why are you selling the Battle Fury? You need to sell the Battle Fury, I think, and get a heart, or maybe even a bit of extra damage. Battle Fury, it is allowing Alchemist to push down the way, but Mjolnir would accomplish the same thing at this point. And even then, Shadowblade still should probably be the next item choice that you should sell as Rising Stars. I think they're gonna go all in. Lone Druid, has he picked up any major items? Picked up a Basher. If you get some lucky Bashes, that might help them to steal the game, as Acid Spray gonna be used to help dispel the Alchemist. TNK gonna find himself Storm. TNK, oh my god, he bought back and he's gonna die. Such a huge loss. They have no wall, and the wall has been the primary catalyst in the fence. But Mith-Trust still had the buyback on the Gyrocopter. Gyrocopter is gonna have to carry it up so hard. Here comes a teleport by the Gyrocopter. He's gonna teleport in so very bravely, but without the Darkseid, they can't hope to keep in place. Ghost Scepter gonna be used by the Visage. XCD will die, but he is just Nyx. No, he's gonna get 3 minutes by careful stunning, but for such a long duration. Alchemist stun will be used as the Gyrocopter will die. He's gonna buy back, but without the Darkseid, it's so hard. Mith-Trust, they can't pursue the issue. Rising Star is going to back off their tier 4. It's being threatened their tier 4. Looks like it will end up falling. One more Siege Wagon unit will be there, but Alchemist actually going back in. Will finish up the Juggernaut. Lakel's, he's going to die. He has no buyback. Lakel's, say it ain't so. He's going to pop the tank. He's trying to do work, but it can't do enough work. Too much damage being pumped out. Nyx gonna back to defend the base as a bot gonna get worked down, and TNK's mistake gonna cost the Mith-Trust a chance to move on to the playoff bracket. Rising Stars gonna be able to overpower Mith-Trust in the end. Not gonna lie, I've watched Mith-Trust for a while. I've never seen Rising Stars. I was rooting for Mith-Trust, but they just made one too many mistakes. And TNK, he played well, so well, but one mistake, just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that is going to seal the death of Mith-Trust in the TI3 qualifiers, but hopefully we'll see Mith-Trust more in the future. I'm definitely looking forward. They always have seemingly very, very hyped games, as that was a very, very, very well played game by both sides. Unfortunately, Rising Stars, just too much for Mith-Trust, and it's going to be an all-Chinese TI3 qualifier bracket. It's going to be Rising Stars, LGD China, Vici Gaming, and the Rattlesnakes. As, man, what a game. Definitely one to write down, as TI3 Eastern qualifiers definitely been a lot more action-packed for the Western qualifiers, at least in the group stages. Hopefully it'll continue on to the brackets, but hopefully enjoy that. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see y'all next time.